When a mind is impressionable and has none too firm a hold on what is right, it must be rescued from the crowd. It is so easy for it to go over to the majority. Seneca the Younger. So today in this video, we're going to be talking about Seneca the Younger, who is a Roman Stoic philosopher, who is very famous for his ideas and beliefs and tenets on how to really live life strong and brave in the face of illness, sickness, and problems. Much of the same concepts that Stoic philosophers do talk about. But he's a Roman philosopher who came later on, unlike, Epictetus, who was a Greek philosopher. But he was really focused on how to deal with illness and sickness, how to be brave, not to be afraid of these situations. So today, we're going to be talking about the book Letters from a Stoic. And this is a bunch of letters that Seneca wrote to a loved one named Lucilius, who held a government position in Sicily. And a lot of these letters are his observations in life when he was in retirement. In another video, we'll go over who Seneca was and his life and what he was doing. But just know that in this case, just for now in this video, Letters from a Stoic is a bunch of his confessions, his realizations in life as he is in retirement, as he's going through pressure from the government and political powers and whatnot. So, the overall message of letter 7 that we're going to talk about is to avoid a mass crowd, to avoid society. Why is society and why is a mass crowd bad for us as people who are trying to grow, as people who are trying to improve, and people who are trying to develop skills and lead to a more peaceful life? Seneca begins by saying, "I never come back home with quite the same moral character I went out with." So he states that when he goes outside, before all the internal peace that he's developed in solitude, the character that he's developed in solitude, when he goes out into society and interacts with people, what happens is these traits slowly start to disappear. They actually just go away. The traits that he's developed, the things that he's worked on, slowly go away. So it's the whole idea of whatever he conquered in himself to become a better person slowly goes away. So why is this the case? It's because he says that association with people in large numbers is actually harmful. See, when we're interacting with so many people, there's always a chance for us to get corrupted by these people. This is his belief. There's always someone or something ready to corrupt the character that we've worked so hard on. He states that the larger the size of the crowd we mingle with, the greater the danger. It's because that people have different vices. People and things and everything that we're exposed to, they have vices. And we have our own vices. So in solitude, when we work on our own vices, and then we go out and we're exposed to similar vices and completely different vices from different people, it slowly breaks our character. This is Seneca's belief. And he believed that we are most vulnerable to deteriorating our character when we are succumbing to entertainment. When there's entertainment, when we relax and when we're calm and we, in a way, just not even calm, when we're trying to look for entertainment, what happens is we are weak to ruining our character. So the example that he gives, it's quite an extreme example, but he gives an example of gladiator arenas. Because during that time, the entertainment that people had was that they would go to these fights. And they were brutal. And he in this letter, he explained it. He explained it very well. And very descriptively that, these slaves or these criminals, they're thrown into the arena. They're completely destroyed. They're victims to different animals. They're forced to fight. They're forced to, bloodshed and death and destruction and just a chaos, and they have no choice. They have to die at the end of the day. So they have to fight and they have to die at the end of the day, while people spectators are watching them. They're watching them and saying, fight, do this, do this. Why aren't you fighting harder? Why are you weak? Why are you running away? Completely judging the people who have to die. Like, not only judging, but just completely like animals looking at them. It's just a complete mess. And so Seneca is seeing this. And he's seeing that this is the form of entertainment that they have. And it's total corruption. But the whole idea here is that he tries to argue against it. The opponent's argument, the people, the spectators who are watching, they argue that, well, the gladiators who are fighting, or the people who are fighting, they were criminals. They murdered people. So Seneca really angrily replies. He's like, okay, so he murdered someone. So he committed a crime. But what gives you the right to watch him die by somebody else? What gives you the right? What have you done in life? What have you earned to watch this for pleasure, for your entertainment, and to judge these people, and to make them do what you want them to do? They committed crimes, but what gives you the right to do this? So Seneca is really angry at what society is doing. Now, yeah, we don't have gladiator arenas right now, but we can see how our minds do get corrupted by entertainment. When we're watching certain TV shows, when we're watching certain movies, there's horror movies, there's violent movies, there's TV shows that, kind of make us think a certain way. When our minds are relaxed in these situations, we're exposed to media, we're exposed to different situations, and in these situations, our minds get corrupted. So Seneca is saying here that it's only through the masses, it's only through society itself, interaction with large numbers of people, our minds become corrupted. What we've worked on in solitude, in the very confines of our room. So if I believe that I have problems with, anger, lust, greed, and I've spent time working on it, introspecting, what happens is when I go out into public, I have to be careful, because the natural state and the nature of public is to pretty much degrade your character over time. Seneca goes even as far as to say that Socrates and other figures, very famous philosophers, even they would have been shaken if they were constantly around people who did not get along with them or who were not of the same character. So to say that about Socrates, because these people looked up to Socrates. Socrates, was a famous figure. So for some Roman philosophers and philosophers in general to say, and for Seneca to say that even Socrates would be a victim to public, that's also a very powerful statement right there. So he then says, I'm going to say a couple of quotes, but it's very interesting. He says, such is the measure of the inability of any of us, even as we perfect our personality's adjustment, to withstand the onset of vices when messed up the quote, but with the onset and the vices that come with such a following. So our character is in such a way that it's so weak to society. And even if we've developed it over time, it's still weak. And it will still be weak over time if we are constantly surrounded by society all the time. Oh, not all the time, but a lot of the time. He says that, now this is very interesting. Seneca says that a single example of extravagance or greed does a lot of harm. An intimate who leads a pampered life gradually makes one soft and flabby. A wealthy neighbor provokes cravings in one. A companion with a malicious nature tends to rub off some of his rust even on someone of an innocent and open-hearted nature. What then do you imagine the effects on a person's character is when the assault comes from the world at large? This is an amazing quote, because simply, a wealthy neighbor provokes cravings in one. If we live a life of just, I'm simple, I don't want too much, but then we befriend a neighbor or a friend. We have a friend who lives more luxuriously, and more has definitely more luxurious lifestyle, more wealthy lifestyle. There's gonna be something within us that makes us kind of slowly want to have that lifestyle. Or if we're around people where he says a companion with a malicious nature tends to rub off on someone who is innocent and open-hearted. Take the example of college campuses. There's people coming in who are very innocent, naive, open-hearted, and then there's there's people who some people, I mean, there's this culture where you're expected to not be sensitive. There's this culture where you're expected to not be, you're supposed to be, you're showing your emotions or a sign of weakness. So then people kind of, act more rude towards each other and more kind of cold towards each other, and that's okay. um but in any case, it's not, I mean, that's not always the case, but that's something that I've seen happening a lot. But the whole idea is that, if you're constantly around people who are malicious, then people who are open-hearted and sensitive, these people can slowly start to become cold and malicious as well. So the whole idea is that one person, just association with one person, can change you. Association with one person. So then what is to say with an entire world at large, with so many people around you? So yes, this brings a lot of debate as to how do you conduct yourself in society if Seneca is saying that people in society are going to affect you. Is there a way to go into society and not be affected by these things so that you can keep your nature and your own personality? This is a question we have to explore and we have to see. Seneca does not address it in this case. He proposes a different solution. But the whole emphasis here to remember is that a single person can completely affect us. So crowds of people can affect us as well. So Seneca's solution, he says, retire into yourself as much as you can. Associate with people who are likely to improve you. Welcome those whom you are capable of improving. The process is a mutual one. Men learn as they teach. So in this case, he's saying, look, this is how society is. This is how it's going to be. This is public life. Retreat into yourself. Be focused on yourself. And if you do want to associate people who are going to improve you, who are like you, not people who don't understand you or are different from you. Now, not different in the sense of, oh, you're not going to be accepting of, different people and different cultures and different ideas. But I think in this case, he's talking about people who are invalidating you and not understanding you. People who are kind of making you feel lonely. So, towards the end, he provides 3 quotes to Lucilius. And he says, look, I'm not just writing this for myself, I'm writing this for you. And here are 3 quotes. So the first thing, he quotes Democritus, who is also a Greek philosopher. He says, Democritus says, a single man is a crowd, and a crowd is a single man. And this is amazing, because just as I said, just as Seneca says, one person can be a crowd, and a crowd can be one person. So you could befriend someone tomorrow. You could be friends with someone tomorrow who could completely change your personality. You could be sensitive. This person can make you into a ruthless person over time. People impact us, and we know that. A second quote is, an anonymous person was asked, what is the point of your creation, your craftsmanship, when it only reaches a few people? So this anonymous person created something, and someone asked him that, why would you create something? It's not going to reach like that many people. And then he responds, a few is enough for me. So is one. So is none. So if we were to really look at that idea, I mean, the way that I would interpret it is that, he's being more genuine by saying that few is enough for me, so is one, so is none. He's being more genuine about what he's doing, and he's not doing it for other people. He's really doing it for himself. So whether no one sees it, or even one person sees it, or a few people see it, that's enough. I don't need a lot of people to see it. It's not necessary. And the third quote is by Epicurus, who's also a Greek philosopher. And when Epicurus was writing a letter, he says, I am writing this, not for the eyes of many, but for yours alone. For each of us is an audience enough for the other. So that is also another amazing quote as well. So the whole idea here is that, once again, the audience that we think that we're facing can actually exist within one person. The whole idea of society, like us, as soon as we walk out on the street, as soon as we open the door and walk out, we are victim to society's influences. We are victim to the masses and their beliefs and how they can corrupt us, and how the stuff that we've worked on. So Seneca takes a very, some would say negative view. I wouldn't say negative view. I personally would agree with his view that like you are influenced by society, definitely, And sometimes you feel like the things you've worked on, if you're doing a lot of introspective work and you feel that, sometimes I shouldn't have said something, sometimes I was mean to someone, I shouldn't have said that, and you go out and you do it again. If you do notice, a lot of times it's your environment determining why you're saying certain things, or why you're hyped up, and why you're being rude, or unaware of what you're saying. It can be the environment, the music, the media, all these things that you're associated with. But then when you retreat back into yourself, when you retreat back into your room, then you start to do that development work again. But this is all of us, for us to interpret. It's for us to look at Seneca's view and see that, is this true, and can I apply this? And do I want to apply it? So Seneca says at the end, "Lay these quotes in your heart, my dear Lucilius, that you may scorn the pleasure that comes from the majority's approval. The many speak highly of you, but have you really any grounds for satisfaction with yourself? If you are the kind of person the many understand, your merit should not be outward facing." So, Lucilius, take these quotes, understand them, and don't rely on the pleasure of the majority approving you. The majority's approval, people validating you, the masses, public, looking at you as some high figure. Don't rely on that. Because do you really want these people, do you really want these types of people who cannot understand you to really praise you? Does that make sense? Whatever you do, make sure that it's not an outward facing thing. Make sure it's something that is being internally done. So this is, I thought this letter was amazing, from Seneca, letter 7 from Letters from a Stoic. Once again, it's important to contextualize. I'm assuming this was written in Latin or probably Greek, probably Latin though. So if one wants a proper understanding, one should learn Latin and understand what these letters are saying, and then read the other letters surrounding it. I did read the other letter afterwards. I didn't talk too much about society and its influence as much, but I will definitely be reading through this book and going through different concepts. But I really wanted to take this letter out and for people to consider the idea that, maybe we're not improving, and maybe we're not reaching a happier state, or a state we want to reach, because of the company we keep and because of how society is influencing us. So on that note, I think that we'll go explore. I'll try to explore other Stoic philosophers or another video. I think I'm gonna go more towards the east now for some time, but until then, I hope we can consider this, and I hope that we have some questions to raise regarding this. For example, how to be practical in society without people influencing us, how to have a strong moral ground without people influencing us and creating our vices or stirring our vices again. Is that possible? Is what Seneca is saying absurd? Or is Seneca onto something? These are some questions we should consider, because, after all, we're all searching for happiness and we're all trying to improve ourselves. So until next time, people, talk to you about more Eastern concepts. All right, thank you and take care.